Hello everyone, my name is Josh Laskowski. For those of you who have been here, welcome to my home, Dr. Kramer. Welcome to my tiny home. Please ignore any of my snacks that might be in the fridge up there. Space is a little tight. Thank you all for coming. I wanted to start out just by asking how many of you have established or kind of reignited perhaps a bad habit over 2020. One example that I'm thinking of is my phone. I use my phone so often now. I used to use it a lot anyway, but with COVID and 2020, I find myself constantly looking for the news, and then at the same time, I find myself constantly on my phone trying to avoid the news. And just 2020 seems to have brought up some really rough and potentially nasty habits. And I just want to offer a potential solution. I believe that exercise, whether weightlifting, specifically weightlifting, is one way that can help battle some of these bad habits that we have formed. To walk you through the speech, I'm going to talk about some of the main issues that I've seen increase in 2020, and then I'm going to just show how weightlifting seems to be at least a useful way of decreasing, maybe not entirely eliminating, but decreasing some of these bad habits. It's ultimately a way for us to replace these bad habits with something that is much more healthy. So I'd like to start out talking about how 2020 and anxiety and depression seem to be best friends. Anxiety and depression have increased significantly. Sahu Grover is one of my sources that I looked up. He did a study on India and just the population of India and just the outrageous percentages of the population just with an increase of anxiety and depression, and that's just within India as an example. I'm sure you have plenty of personal stories and personal accounts of the overwhelming just frustration and fear that people are dealing with. The lockdown just leaves people alone with their thoughts, and whether or not you respond one way or another or to both, it seems to be if I'm not going to respond with anxiety, I might probably respond with depression. Just when they're locked down, just they feel isolated, and it's just these mental issues and mental problems just lead us to an unhealthy way of living, and I just want us to see that there's an alternative. Another issue with the lockdown is just like I mentioned earlier, our excessive idle time. When I was with my wife, when we got married, we had about 3 or almost a month of just being on total lockdown. We had nothing to do, and that just led to some pretty bad habits. One of my sources, forgive me, there is the increase of social media usage and pornography. There's a website, I am failing to remember the name, but it does a study of the top 10 most viewed websites, and unfortunately Pornhub is a part of the top 5, and the second COVID started, it just seemed to rise to the top, and it doesn't look like it's going to be changing anytime soon. In addition to these issues, there's also the physical side, perhaps our unhealthy eating. Lorenzo is a person that did a study of it. He did a study in Italy of the eating habits of people responding to the lockdown and to COVID. And Lorenzo showed that about 48% or 49% of the population had a significant increase of weight. And this poor eating might not be, a bad thing right now for us college students, we're in our 20s, but these unhealthy habits will eventually cause health issues, and this can be an outsource of some of the internal mental issues that we've been struggling with as well. And that leads me to hopefully a solution that you'll consider is exercising with weights is just one really simple and really effective way of battling either our emotional and mental issues or just battling some of our physical, our bad eating habits. Grover Sahu is my source for, he did a study of randomly generated people, or randomly selected people, and he showed the data of when people that were suffering with depression and anxiety, he saw a steady increase of the more consistent and the more intense the exercising was, the lower and the more decreased the depression episodes were. And I just think that's a great example I've seen in my own life about how proper exercise, when I just seem to be in a funk, that when I get back in the gym, it's a healthy release to help me gain perspective. And not to mention the eating habits. I find this really fascinating. Michelle Tucker shows that lifting weights and regular exercise actually helps your body crave healthier things. That one healthy step forward actually helps you not want to eat 3 bags of Cheetos, but it makes you just be like, maybe we should eat an apple today. These are all just some good data, I feel like, of showing that weightlifting is a valuable resource. But sometimes we get anxious, or sometimes we think that it's harder than it is. We think it's complicated. Mark Ripito was my first resource that I ever used. Mark Ripito is a professional powerlifter, and he developed a system called Starting Strength. That's what I used from the beginning. It's super simple. He has sketches of the movements along with YouTube videos of instructional how-tos. And I just want you guys to understand that if you want to replace your bad habits, there are resources out there. And though weightlifting might not be a one-stop shop, it might not help you overcome all of your issues, it can replace a really bad habit with a really good habit. So to wrap up, we talked about just the 2020 issues of whether we're dealing with mental issues such as anxiety and depression, or our physical issues of just having too much time on our hands and just maybe eating unhealthy, and how exercising has allowed us to replace those bad habits with something that is much more life-giving. And if you guys have to leave 2020 defeated, I hope you guys will consider applying this as a healthier habit for 2021.